Well, once again, we're at a place in history where I honestly cannot figure out what the deal is. In this particular case, dealing with the North Carolina voter ID law, which the Supreme Court basically just voted to leave overturned by the circuit court, I'm finding myself saying, okay, well, what's the big deal? I mean, look, if you have a club, say the Elks or the Moose or whatever kind of charitable club, maybe it's a church organization, you want your members to be able to vote on certain things, right? And if you have a whole bunch of non-members come into your meeting, you don't want them to have a vote on it, do you? You don't want them to be able to determine your policies. I mean, it's your group. Only members should be allowed to vote. Well, what's the difference between that and a city council or a state or a government? I mean, people don't seem to want people from Mexico or Canada coming into the United States and voting in our elections. And yet at the same time, I ask myself, no matter who's in Washington, D.C., do they really reflect my values as an Alaskan? Do people that live 3,000 miles or more away from me have knowledge of what's going on in my neighborhood or what's happening with the resources in my state? I don't think they do. I mean, if you think about the American Revolution, that whole concept of taxation without representation, it had a lot less to do with the fact that, oh, well, yeah, because we didn't get to vote in the last election, they shouldn't be able to tax us. And it had more to do, if you really think about it, that you have people making decisions about people that are on the other side of the planet from them. 3,000 miles away, actually. Almost the same between the East Coast of the United States and Britain as it is between the East Coast of the United States and Alaska. You think about that for just a moment in terms of people saying, well, you shouldn't have to have a voter identification and be able to go and vote. Well, then how do you know if those people actually belong to your little club? What makes them a member of your little club in the first place? Maybe you just don't want people to vote for something because you're afraid you're going to lose. You want to keep the people out who might not have the same view as you, and therefore you're going to find yourself in the minority instead of the majority. You're going to find yourself losing on some of these propositions, which brings me to the issue. The entire idea of voting is flawed because it comes down to requiring force to enforce the results of the election, right? We use that term, enforce the results. It requires the use or the threat of force for people to go in and be taxed, right? If you go out and you vote for a school tax, what you're saying is, yes, you like the idea of paying more for a school, but you don't really want to pay for it, at least not all of it by yourself. Therefore, you're going to put your neighbor's house up as collateral and force them to pay what you think is their fair share. Well, if you can do that for schools and you can do it for your protection, I mean, instead of hiring bodyguards, you just hire somebody who goes around and guards the entire neighborhood, right? If you can do it for those, why can't you do it for food? Why can't you do it for whatever thing in your lifestyle that you don't really want to pay for? We already have that here in Alaska at the Fairbanks, the local level, the dog park. People who want a place to go and take their dogs, but they don't really want to pay for it. Therefore, they made the community chip in to pay and build for a dog park. They do the same thing with trash collection. They do the same thing with all kinds of issues that could be, and honestly should be, voluntary arrangements between individuals, but instead it becomes this issue of, well, we took a vote, and therefore we're not going to force you at the point of a gun, literal or otherwise, to pay for the things that I want, but I don't really want to pay for it. One of the things I tell my kids is they're looking for something that they want to buy. Oh, I really, really want that. And I ask them, do you really want to pay for it? Because if you don't want it enough to save up for it and to discipline yourself, to put money aside to pay for these things, then you don't really want it. At least not badly enough. That's my 2 cents. Love to engage you on the topic. Send me an email, steve@radiofreespeech.com, or call me in the studio. I'm normally in the studio every day around noonish Alaska time. You'll find the link right there and the phone number at radiofreespeech.com. Thanks.